Okay, hello and welcome to the first session of Techlandia Summit 21. Good morning, based on where you are in the world, or good afternoon or good evening. I'm Kara Toronto, Chief Operating Officer with the Technology Association of Oregon, and I'll be your facilitator for this session, along with Riley O'Brien, Vice President, Events and Experiences, who will be coordinating back-end support. We're excited for our second year of Techlandia Summit, a week-long virtual conference focused on delivering better community outcomes using technology. This year's event will highlight innovative projects across the region spanning infrastructure and quality of life, sustainable and equitable growth, health and wellness, and climate and the environment. I'm particularly excited this year as we've seen through the pandemic the intersection of technology and just about everything, moving the entire world into the digital transformation conversation with its pros and its cons. Today's focus on agriculture and the role of technology is near to my heart as TAO has been partnering with various agencies in the Mid-Willamette Valley of the state to build the Northwest Ag Innovation Hub. From drones to farm stand e-commerce platforms, robotics to blockchain, we have seen technology transform the agriculture landscape from farm to table across the entire supply chain. Today, we will focus on those changes in an industry that McKinsey says is poised for a digital transformation, one that is necessary to feed the planet. A couple of rules of engagement as we start. All of our participants have been muted, and we ask that you remain on mute unless a TAO staff member unmutes you and calls on you to talk. We will have an open Q&A session. You may ask or respond to questions in the chat, publicly or privately, by directing your messages to me or the special events moniker. We will monitor the chat box and respond throughout the discussion. We will ask you all to engage via the participant icon on your screen, and feel free to join us on camera so our speakers here can have a live audience. I think we've all spoken way too many times into the Zoom void. Please engage with us on social media during this session. We're excited to share what's happening throughout the Techlandia Summit and to get participant takeaways from our events. This session is also being recorded and will be found on TAO's YouTube channel within 24 hours of the event. We hope that you will join us for the other sessions during Techlandia Summit 21 through Thursday of this week. The agriculture conversation continues at 11 a.m. today, and there are two sessions focused on healthcare tomorrow, Tuesday, June 22nd. A huge thank you to all of the investors in the Techlandia Summit. We appreciate their sponsorship and are excited to explore topics related to agriculture, healthcare, climate and environment, and infrastructure throughout this week. So a big thank you to Comcast Business, Fortinet, Grail, and SAP. And finally, after my long introduction, it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote for this session, Vice President Commodity Management and Agribusiness at SAP, Anya Strootkamper. Anya, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Kara. Thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure and great honor to be here and to kick it off this morning. So this is really great. And as you said, agriculture is also very dear to my heart and something we've been working on for quite some time to actually build an offering for our clients. So let me see if I can get the technology set up here. And then we can dive right into it. Yes, so let's kick it off. The idea is to talk about farm to consumer, a journey of trust, and talk a little bit about what we as SAP see as trends and what we are offering to our clients and our partners in this exciting industry. So maybe before we go into the content, okay, if this is advancing. Second. Okay, there we go. Yeah, a little bit about myself. So I'm Anya Strootkamper. I'm heading up our agribusiness industry unit here within SAP. So we're part of a larger industry team. And our focus is really to understand what's happening in this industry, understand trends, thought leadership topics, and from there derive investments into solutions and products that we as SAP can offer to the market. And we do that in great collaboration with customers, partners, influencers, analysts, And we're increasingly, and I'll talk about that in my presentation this morning, we're increasingly building open ecosystems. So you'll see and hear a little bit about our strategy. And I've been with the company for over 20 years. I had the pleasure to really build up this agriculture practice over the last 6 years. And I'm really excited to talk about what we've done, where we come from, and where we see this industry going. So in terms of an agenda for my presentation, I'd like to show a few trends. I'm sure you've seen them in previous sessions. Just give a little bit my perception on some of the things we see, also those trends that have influenced us in making investment decisions. I'll talk about what is our approach to agribusiness. So how do we define agri? How do we operate? What are our focus topics within this big farm to consumer value chain? And then I want to talk about our solution offerings. So talk a little bit about what is SAP's strategy. A lot of you may know we're an ERP company. You may not know what else we all do other than ERP. We do a lot more, and we have effectively adapted our strategy to be ready for the future and the digital transformations that our clients want to do. And then I want to talk about solutions that we offer in this space. And I want to quickly highlight some of the things we have in end-to-end products, but for this morning, really want to focus on two areas. One is the farm-to-consumer traceability, which is all around building trust, collaborating across the supply chain to share information and give consumers the confidence they want in where their products come from. And another focus topic in efficient and sustainable farming, where a lot of companies, startups are investing to really also get data and basically provide information for different purposes. And then, as I mentioned, we're building ecosystems. So let me quickly talk about what we're doing there and then sum it up and also provide you some points where you can find more information. So if we talk about trends, I think everyone who looks into agriculture will quickly come to the fact that the world population is growing. It's about to approach 10 billion. And with that, that means there'll be a need for more food. If you look at where population is growing, there is obviously India and China. There's also steep growth in Africa. And that'll lead to an imbalance of food supply and food demand globally. So there are predictions from the United Nations, from other sources, that to feed the world in 2050, agricultural output needs to double. And that means we need to have really a growth plan while arable land is actually decreasing. What is also interesting is that as societies get more mature, as the wealth of nations is growing, there is a change in nutritional patterns. So you can see that in the protein consumption, still traditionally in the form of meat. So you see that meat production has grown tremendously in the last 30, 40 years, but it's expected to still grow very fast in the next couple of years. And we see that as meat, but you see also modern consumers looking at alternatives. There's a lot of growth in vegetarian, vegan markets, and new trends like alternative meat products, protein products coming up to fulfill that demand for other nutritional patterns. When we look at agriculture, I think one thing that is unique, and it's different to many of the other industries, we serve over 20 industries at SAP, is the fact that it depends on natural resources. So it's not like taking a bill of material, producing a car. It's really dependent on soil, and it's using arable land, or it's using livestock production on arable land to produce output. And it uses a lot of resources, whether that's non-forest land, fresh water, fuels. So there is a clear trend globally, even in development countries, to look at agricultural practices that are not only increasing yield and output, but are sustainable. There's a ton of initiatives around sustainable agriculture. And I think this is a trend and something where we think technology will be key to enable that. Now, when you look at the food supply chain and you look at consumer behavior, food supply chains obviously affect health of individuals. And we see that there is a lot of regulations that have been there, but they're getting tougher. So there are new standards popping up, and there are costs associated to fulfilling these standards. So we believe that this culture of highest quality, but also understanding what practices you have is increased, also with a focus on understanding that value chain. Here in Germany, our parliament just approved a law where companies need to understand the full supply chain down a couple of tiers to be able to respond to legislation. When we look at consumers, probably the key driver also for legislations, consumers, especially the millennials, the younger generations, are increasingly looking at where does my food come from. And when you look at reports, whether that is from the European federations or whether that is McKinsey or any other source, there is a clear alignment in opinion that there will be more money spent on food where producers can actually prove that this is built by certain standards, whatever your standard is, whether it's organic, whether it's allergen free, whether it's sourced locally, but tracing food and being able to underpin that with data, we think is also an opportunity, not just an obligation, to have brand differentiation and also then differentiation in the market. If you look at that supply chain, it's also true that there is a lot of waste still in that global supply chain. So a lot of food that is, even if it's produced sustainably, doesn't ever reach the plates of the consumers. So there is an ample opportunity to also look into waste potentials and trace along ultimately the plate to take out loss in that supply chain. So we believe, and we see that in trends and reports and data, that to meet challenges of that industry, digitization, digital transformation is really coming now and is there to revolutionize that supply chain from the field all the way to the end consumer. If you look at latest reports, there is alignment that the data is, or the tools are not used yet in the best way to achieve that goal. So that's where we think is the opportunity for our clients, our partners, and ultimately for SAP to provide help and use our experience. So if we look at what do we do in agribusiness, how do we define it? When we started to go into that sector, we really wanted to look at that end-to-end farm to consumer, farm to table value chain, and starting not even at the production or the farming step, but at the provision of input. So when you look at the two dimensions, crop and livestock, on the crop side, we look at seed, fertilizer, crop protection. There's a lot of data coming from the machinery. And similarly, on the livestock side, it's actually animal feed, which is a circuit in that value chain, and even animal health, animal medicine that is playing a role here. Then really, it's all about agricultural production and farming. And from there, it's typically origination, buying from growers, originating through long-term contracts, short-term contracts, trading it out, aggregating, trading it out to the next one down the chain, which can be international export or can be direct processing. And from there, it typically goes straight into CPG, food manufacturing, retail, and the end consumer. And as SAP, we have a long history in the retail industry, consumer industry, also on the input side. And really, by focusing on agribusiness over the last couple of years, our goal was to create an offering to serve that end-to-end value chain and address some of these trends and thought leadership things that I've laid out earlier. So my team and I have actually looked at what are the topics that we see are important and where we want to invest time and create industry-specific offerings over and above what SAP offers. And we've come up with these 5 areas or themes. And when you look at that previous picture, we look into farming, into efficient and sustainable farming. We look into origination and trading. We look at that end-to-end supply chain, traceability, supply chain management. And on that livestock side, so that lower part of that previous screen, we look into dairy management and meat and fish management. So these are areas where we have dug a bit deeper into what's trends, what are solutions that our clients need, and where should we play, where should we partner, where should we potentially even acquire. Now, how do we do that? We don't do that all alone. We do that largely through very, very tight cooperation with customers. And I'm very privileged to run 2 of these advisory councils. And you see we have one for agribusiness, which is probably more the upper part of that value chain picture, so the crop side of the house. And those are companies that are either in farming, in origination, in all of it, food processing, but also you see some big, large brands on the input side. And these are the ones advising us in that part of the business. And then you see another group on that dairy side, also big international brands that are customers of SAP in that dairy business in different parts of the dairy value chain. You see we have actually, these groups are by invitation only. So it's meant to have a group of clients that are committed to us, that want to work and shape the future. So we have information sharing, collaboration. And the idea really is to look at thought leadership and look at what innovations should we as SAP provide to these clients. Like I think all events, we used to have 2 meetings a year. Obviously at the moment we're fully operating in virtual meetings, but I'm always humbled by the attendance we see. So I think it's a lot of momentum even, and potentially even during the pandemic, a lot of these trends got increased. So probably that explains why we're actively progressing in this space. So let's look a little bit around our solutions and what do we do. So if we look at SAP, where is SAP currently at? What do we do? I mentioned a lot of you may know us for the ERP company. And we have evolved since 1972 when we started that ERP business in a small scale. And we have recently come up with this concept we call intelligent enterprise. And what do we mean with intelligent enterprise? It's actually several layers. It is very much still in that middle layer you see highlighted here. So it's applications, which is what we've been doing for the last almost 50 years now. We're an application provider. And we understand business processes end to end and provide applications that are integrated to our customers to actually model these processes. We're also in the technology area. So we have what we call the business technology platform, which has different elements. It has a database. We have a real-time database that we call S4HANA or HANA. And the product, the ERP product, is called S4HANA on top. So it's an in-memory database. And we also have a cloud platform with a lot of components, tech components like blockchain, analytics, machine learning that sit in that technology layer. And our idea is that we use our technologies in that technology platform to make the processes more intelligent. So from having transactional processing to having intelligence analytics built into our applications, but also give our clients that platform to enhance applications when they see a need for doing that. And on top of all that, you see business networks. So this is really exciting, something we've announced at our recent Sapphire event, large event, which really means we have a network where our clients can do business, can do interactions in a network, join once and find your business partners, whether that's in logistics, and we'll come to that in this business here, whether that's in a procurement or whether that is an asset management. We will enhance that because we realize nobody does business alone. And with our 400,000 customers often really betting their business on SAP systems, this is a big growth area for SAP. So What I want to highlight is in that intelligence suite, so in that application layer, you see we've got ERP, we also have finance, customer experience, sustainability management, HR, and spend management. So these are what we call line of business applications. But we've also made investments over the last couple of years in agricultural specific applications. And I will show you a few of these in a minute that we have built together with customers to tackle some of the challenges that I laid out earlier. So let's start with one that is in that origination and trading space. We call it agricultural contractment and commodity risk management. So this is about originating from farmers for any commodity that is exchange traded and managing that end-to-end contract life cycle. Typically, this is very complicated because those products are based on volatile prices, on qualities. They're kept in silos, there's commingling, there is silo services receipts or silo services provisioning. And whenever you deal with commodities, the big challenge is that they fluctuate in price, and depending on how crops go and how global stock levels are, they can fluctuate tremendously. So all of our clients are looking for risk management. So we have created this solution set to automatically allow you to enter contracts, manage pricing with farmers, manage every step of that process. And at every step of the process, be able to see what is my open position, what is my risk, what is my mark to market, depending on how I see the markets go, what's my trade position, and am I making money or am I losing money, depending on where I sit. So if I'm in a trading position, am I making money or losing money as a trader? When I'm buying it in to process food, am I good in my provision for spending so much on raw materials, or do I need to hedge more to actually not have cost in explosion in the downstream part? We are very, very honored and humbled to have a partnership here over the last couple of years with Cargill, leading agri company. We have co-innovated very successfully over the last couple of years with Cargill to build out this solution set. Cargill has rolled it out, is in the process of further rolling it out globally. And you see here this reference video, which I'll hand out. So they're really happy. And what they do, they use this technology to standardize their processes and take cost out, take inefficiencies out, but also to give better services to farm customers, increase trust with their customers, and have better services. So we think this is a great opportunity for us to further invest and grow that business. Another solution stack in that classical space is our dairy management offering. So this is something we've done together with a partner company here out of Germany called MSG. And the idea is that as a dairy company, you want to make the most out of your raw milk. You buy in from farmers, you typically have contracts, but then you need to take decisions. What am I doing with the milk that comes in? And again, this is agriculture, so you don't order a piece of equipment that is built exactly like is. Quality of milk can vary depending on the animals, on animal nutrition. So a lot of thought and managing skills go into using this incoming raw material for the best. So we offer push-pull planning, we offer yield control, we offer operation solutions and costing solutions to actually look, are you making the most out of the incoming products, and are you able to process that food and add value. And a lot of the dairy companies are actually co-ops, so by having great management tools, they're able to pay better prices to their farmers. So we think this is also a contribution to sustainable management for our clients here. So you see another reference video with a Swiss company called Emmy. Emmy has worked with us to build out that stack together with MSG, and quite happy to provide more details if you're interested. And then another example on that livestock side is our meat and fish management solution. So a bit similar to what we have in the dairy side. If you run a meat business or a fish business, It's all about livestock operations, buying in additional livestock, and then planning, a push-pull planning to see what am I getting in terms of livestock, what do I need from the market, what's my demand and supply balance, how do I run my disassembly plants, how do I do processing, how can I optimize that end-to-end process. And also here we've created a solution that sits fully built into our ERP, our supply chain stack, to actually enable that process seamlessly, and hopefully also here have sustainability in, because our clients will have better visibility and less fallout in that process, which is obviously a very fragile process in terms of animal treatment. Now, what is new is that concept of industry cloud. So if we go back to this SAP strategy, we have announced what we call industry cloud for all industries. And what does that mean for agribusiness? It means that we will increasingly enhance our traditional solutions with basically three areas: applications we build as SAP that we think should stand in the cloud, should be open, API open, so that others can connect to it. They're an ecosystem player oftentimes, but they need data from this suite, from our applications and from other sources. And we also want partners to provide applications. So let me show you in the next part 2 examples. One on what we're doing in this end-to-end traceability part, and one in digital farming. So before I do that, just quickly on what do we mean by industry cloud as a concept. So it means we will provide in the cloud, in our technology stack, APIs, we will provide services, we will provide apps, and we will publish our APIs, our apps, so that ecosystem partners can use it, but also our clients will be able to use these APIs to extend either in-house or with partners. There's some cool new concepts on the technology side, like headless UX. So basically, we will provide a skeleton application, but we know where in areas where you're serving farmers, you're serving your clients, you don't want a standardized product either from SAP or a partner. You want as much predefined from SAP or a partner as needed, but you want differentiation. So there are interesting technology concepts to allow our clients to build just the last mile, if you like, and the differentiation part in their markets. What is super exciting, I think, is this concept of machine intelligence, AI. And we have some, again, cool technology concepts in our stack to provide containerized machine learning. So the ability to plug in this AI into an existing business process, so that we as SAP give you a skeleton, but you as a client or as a partner can provide content in your experience in actually enhancing that business process. And all of that we want to provide in an enterprise grade scale. So a lot of our clients have global operations or are localizing, are growing fast. So the idea is you have one single platform as a CIO or as a business collaborating with a CIO, but it scales out. And if you then work with different partners, with tech companies, startups in different parts of the world, you have one single way of connecting A into that cloud layer and B into the intelligence suite with SAP. So that's in a nutshell the technology underlying it. So let me show you 2 examples of what we have done with it. This is one that exists, and the other one is some exciting things we have done and more exciting things to come. So let's look at farm to consumer traceability. As I said in my opening with this, the trends, we think that a lot of it will be creating value by showing provenance, showing where does my food come from, what farmers did I source from, what fields did it come from, what happened on these fields. And as technology will mature, it will go down further, maybe even to what seed did I use, what fertilizer did I use, or what animal nutrition did I provide to the animals that ended up being on my plate. We think that a lot of the waste can be reduced if you think of recall scenarios. If the different participants of that value chain share that data and actually allow for enough data to be available. So if you have a problem with salad having, you know, problems in the retailer, typically today you need to recall a whole time frame of deliveries, but in the future you will be able to look at exactly those elements that were affected because you're sharing data in that supply chain. That will also have an effect on sustainability and, as I mentioned, compliance. In some businesses, think about baby milk or milk powder as a good example. In this business, obviously in the pharmaceutical life science business, that's also super important. It's about counterfeiting. So understanding exactly that this is a product that comes from a safe value chain and there will no frauds in between as we build this out. So what do we offer? We offer something we call material traceability. So basically it's a service that creates that genealogy, product genealogy from different players using blockchain technology. And I mentioned in that intro slide on the SAP strategy, this is actually a crossover on an industry cloud solution. So something we build on our technology stack, but it's connected to our network. So we offer our clients the ability to hook up to their partners in that value chain and use that blockchain service to feed data or read data and use analytics across that data. And it's something of what we call the logistics business network part. And you see there are different other applications like tracking and tracing, freight collaboration, or intelligent insights that sit in that stack on the network side. So the material traceability really allows to share data across N-tier suppliers. In our case, it's batch information. So think about a certain batch of chocolate and the input materials from sugar, cocoa, cocoa butter, whatever it is, and you have an N-tier supply chain that you want to model in that blockchain. So you can then have also multi-component provenance, not just melons or apples, which is basically one product, but even multi-components that are part of a production process. And through that new service, that blockchain service, we're able to alert our supply chain partners on any product issue. We have recall scenarios. So when you see something isn't as it should have been, you can inform the people upwards and downwards in that chain. And because we're SAP, we integrate with backend systems. So most of our clients have data today in their SAP systems, in their S4 systems, in ERP systems, sometimes also in non-SAP ERP systems. We are able to take that data out and feed it into that blockchain service that we have offered. We're very proud we were able to build this product from the get-go in close collaboration with leading food and ag companies. You see some brands here that have given us input. It's been really rewarding to start it off from the ground and from an idea when blockchain was starting to really bring it into the market, matured. Here's just one little graph. So this is an example of having this genealogy in a graphical display all the way up and down. It can be super complex depending on how many steps you have in that chain. And there are applications with the UI to, as I said, to recall scenarios, warning scenarios, analytical scenarios. As I mentioned, a lot of our customers have used ERP systems for many, many years. Also in these industry solutions, in the dairy and meat solution, we do traceability within an ERP system within one company. So we call it batches. We have a batch concept. We even had something we called global batch concept if you had several ERP systems. So that's the internal traceability. And with this service and the network, we're now adding the external traceability to it through that end-tiered network all the way down, and you don't need to manually feed it. You can actually update it automatically every time something happens in your ERP system, automatically feed that network and share what's going. Now, nothing better than to see it happen in practice. So a great story and a great customer engagement we had is with Bumblebee Food. So they are a company that is in the tuna business, in the fish business. They have had traceability data for some time, quite some time. They're very focused on exactly what I mentioned, on having brands that prove we are in fair trade fishing, we are in traceability, we know what we, where our products are coming from. And they wanted to use that data, put it in a blockchain to offer it to the retailers, to the end consumers, and say, you can actually tag it, you can see where it comes from. And they were on the search for a solution. So they've been co-innovating with us to build out that service through various stages in our innovation lifecycle. And they're now using it in live operations and see really that this adds tremendous value to their customers. And let me show you a web application that they are running. So you see here, where was the tuna caught? What was the fishing method? What are the species? Is it fair trade data they collect? In this case, in Indonesia at the origin side. Then details about every trip to show, was it caught in a sustainable way? Are we fulfilling our own guidelines? Are we fulfilling legal guidelines? And then there is even these sustainability aspect of community stories, fair trade. They're supporting communities so that there is a chance for their farmers to grow in this, and ultimately some recipes for the end consumer as an appetizer once you bought their products. So I really like that. I think it's been great working with Tony and his team on building it out. We have a network of partners in this space, and one partner that's been really early on working with us is a company called ScanTrust. So they have built a service through API technology on top of our applications into that network to really use unique QR codes, so that when you want to put a QR code on your end product, get back that data that you need to ultimately prove the data related to exactly that delivery here. And I think it's really great to see that they teamed up with us and they're available for any client to use that out-of-the-box integrated QR code service. Another partner is actually interesting. It's an SAP internal startup, is a startup called Green Tokens. So colleagues of mine who have a deep, deep passion for that topic created this startup. And they looked at a particular aspect of that traceability, which is especially in that ag space, something that is mind-boggling. It's the aspect of commingling. So anytime you blend product in storage, how do you know whether it's this lot of grain or this lot of grain that ended up in the cereal bar, or how do you know this cocoa delivery or this cocoa delivery ended up in your chocolate bar? So they have actually looked into exactly that problem, and they have patented technology to provide that multi-traceability steps in that commingling aspect. So we're really excited that they're partnering with us and getting their specific IP integrated into our network technology. They're also looking, by the way, at the moment at plastic scenarios, so not directly related to ag, but directly related to that consumer end chain, where we know that plastic is a big pollution of the oceans. So they look at tracking plastics and being in that recycling business as well. So some, if you like, innovative use cases coming up here. So that's for the traceability, which leads me to farming. And when we look into farming, that very first step of the value chain, it's very fair to say that what used to be man-driven decision is becoming data-driven decision. So there are tons of decisions that farmers need to make along a harvest year or harvest cycle on how they plant, how they pre-plant, how they fertilize, irrigate, and then harvest. When do you harvest? And all these little decisions will influence yield, but will also influence sustainability. And we firmly believe and see from all the research that there is going to be a shift from human data decision-making to machine data decision-making. And all these cool technologies will help to drive decisions in something that is not deterministic, but often has weather influence, local weather influence, and biological growth influence that is not easy to control. So from an SAP side, we have looked into that topic for quite some time. We firmly believe that it's an area of growth. We believe it's something where we can do our share to help drive efficiency and sustainability. We believe what is missing today is a centralized domain data model and a process model. And we see different market segments. So we see large companies that are industrial farmers in sugarcane and crops like palm oil, depending on where you are on the globe, also in other crops. But we see, and I think this is exciting, we see a lot of consumer goods companies who have an interest in securing supply and securing sustainable supply. So they want to know, where do the potatoes come from that I put into my French fries? They want to know, where do the tomatoes come from I put into my tomato sauce, or my sugar beet that I put into into my finished sugar. And we see that there is increasingly a centralization of that expertise in farming and the data-driven farming, and consumer companies even investing into centralized agronomy teams to support their farmers with that knowledge, because individual farmers oftentimes don't have the time nor the financial means to provide that intelligence. And the third company category is cooperatives that have traditionally been wholesalers, retailers of inputs, buying back the product and servicing companies with agronomy advice. So they are a classical target market in digital farming type solutions. And obviously they're all the ecosystem players, so equipment manufacturers, agrochemical companies, and everyone who provides technology, logic in that space for different crops and different crop categories. So we think it's a super exciting market. And under our council that I mentioned earlier, we've set up some time ago a very, very active work group. You see here, customer-led, that has helped us to understand, what does thought leadership mean? What should SAP be doing? What should you not be doing? Where should you partner? And we're very excited that we can now take that knowledge, and we have taken different investment decisions. So one investment decision was to provide to the industrial farming segment an end-to-end ERP-based farm management solution. So if you are running thousands and thousands of acres, we have a solution in our S4 ERP stack to do farm management. This is a solution coming by our partner Vistex to basically do the integrated planning. It's a bit like managing that production cycle, but on a farm level. And you see also here customer Royal Eswatini Sugar out of Africa who is using that solution. And they're also, Rob Kuhn is also running that work group. So they've given us a lot of input on how can we make that better for the companies that are running farming as a business, as a large enterprise business. What we also see is on that digital side, so not the transactional side, but taking data from soil samples, from satellite imagery, how can we go into that cloud-based app, that big data stack? And we've learned from our customers. So here is ACA, the largest Argentinian cooperative, who has worked with SAP to build on our technology platform a solution for their farmers to basically see every field, understand what has been planted on every field, use satellite imagery, data coming from machines to give individual recommendations on how to best work that land, from irrigation to applying fertilizer, and hence fulfilling both economical criteria, but also sustainability criteria, like saving water, for example. We're very proud to have been working with them, and they won the SAP Innovation Award in 2019. So with all these learnings, what we have decided, and it's brand new, so hot off the press, is we will invest into an industry cloud solution in that digital farming space. And the whole idea is that we, on our technology platform, we build a industry standard, a data model, a farm domain data model, and a process model to actually handle that big data layer and increasingly build out with our customers and partners single processes that are enriched by intelligence, by machine learning logic that reads the data that is available and gives recommendations for different sizes, different business models, and different crop types. So we are excited. We think that having that will give us and our customers insight into analytics on how to improve farming performance and how to also be more sustainable, and through that sustainability increase trust into how has that land been worked. Am I sticking to my promises that I made? And can I actually give proof to the ones down the chain and maybe build a business model based on that proving data? So that's two areas that we're working on. I mentioned the ecosystem, so we're quite proud. This year we were selected by our SAP IO program, which is the unit within SAP that works with startups. So we have a cohort, if you like, a program running where we screen more than 1,000 startups globally that are active in this industry, and we have funneled it down to the ones you see here. And we're currently working with these companies to coach them, guide them on how can you use this industry cloud technology, that API layer, to connect what you have, the IP you bring to the table, into our existing funnel, into our existing applications, and then make them partners. We have different partner models, and ultimately the idea is to have an app store where our clients can go and say, I want to have something specific to screen food. Here is a company that I can go to, and I can actually take that, and they know how to integrate through APIs with SAP. So if you're interested, contact us. This was a very structured process. We'll actually have a demo day coming up soon, so stay tuned, follow me on LinkedIn. But we're open to working with you and find a process to do that also outside of this cadence here. So in summary, we have a very strong focus on agri. We're excited to provide solutions in that farm to consumer value chain. We firmly believe that digitization is a major opportunity to generate value for our clients, to contribute to profit and sustainability, and through that increase trust with consumers. We're working on innovation roadmaps. We've really made big investments ourselves. We have our partners invest, and we think that through this intelligent enterprise and industry cloud concept, there is ample opportunity to continue to co-invest and co-innovate with customers, partners, influencers. And yeah, especially with that launch of the industry cloud, we're really committed to growing that open innovation ecosystem and partner with companies that are interested in helping us on that journey. I put in here where you can find a bit more information. So we have obviously our public website, we have learning journeys, and we have our roadmaps, product roadmaps that we publish, where you can see exactly where we're putting our money, what's coming next. And with that, I'd like to thank you and maybe open it up for questions.
Anya, I'd like to thank you too. Wow, that was thorough. And you're doing so much. Like I think I want to ask, how large is the agribusiness team? And how are you able, I mean, I get it, SAP is a large company, but to your point, like not probably well known for agribusiness. So like, how do you support so many global initiatives that are so disparate from industrial farming to small farmers on different continents?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, when we look at the team and you look at development services, it's a couple of hundreds. If you also look into our partners, my team where we are setting strategy is smaller, but we obviously work with the different teams. Our job is to set direction and to work with our development teams, with our partners, drive investment cases, and to make sure we fulfill that promise. And I think you're spot on. I think increasingly SAP is changing big time. And through that pandemic, I think we've all seen that collaboration is key. So that's where we're opening up to say, if you're a startup, if you have intelligence, if you have logic on how to grow sugarcane, we don't have that. We want you as a partner company, as a university, to put that logic. But what we've done so well is standardize that business process, standardize the data model, so that when you plug it in, it fits in that end-to-end. I think that's how we believe we can cover that breadth and that within that market. Partners are indispensable, yeah.
Well, but that's so nice. It's so nice to hear. And it, you know, it's the answer to the question of how do you scale some of these things. So I saw Jim Couples come on camera, which means Jim has an idea. He's one of our favorites out of the Mid-Willamette Valley or the Southern Willamette Valley, and one of our speakers later.
Super.
Hello, thanks for your presentation. I was curious about what segment in farming do you find most challenging? So, you know, it's kind of like the large scale farms usually have the budget and an infrastructure to kind of move things along for digitization. But there's a heck of a lot of small farms, and just wondering if you could speak to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the smaller the farm size, the more difficult it is, obviously. And I think when we discussed our strategy, you saw I put up that work group, and for me to get my executives to make these investments was a journey to say, what is SAP's role and how do we monetize? How do our customers monetize? I think it's players in the value chain that will help these farmers, we believe. And I think I mentioned the cooperatives. A lot of farmers are organized in cooperatives, certainly here in Europe. I also think in the United States, we work with a lot of the co-ops. And those co-ops will offer services. And our idea is that we enable the co-op and the co-op enables the farmer. So for us, the smaller farmers will be a B2B2C business, if you like. And our job, we think, is also not to do everything for the co-op, but is to build that data model so that if as a co-op, and they all do that, or they're growing into it, if you're advising what fertilizer to put on to a farmer, then you have agronomists giving recommendation based on paper data, Excel data. So we want to give the co-op a platform where they can do all that, use data intelligence. But then once the farmer says, but it's exactly this prescription that I'm interested in, hit a button and give our clients, the co-op, the opportunity to say, now you can order it through a web store. And we have web store technology that we actually have built proof of concept to say, give me exactly that fertilizer. And we even think it will go a step further. A lot of co-ops say, I offer you not the fertilizer, but the fertilization process. So it'll go to a service-based model. So we're adapting our investments on the ERP side to be able to offer, based on that data prescription that you take from the platform, here is a service and it's going to cost you X cent per acre to apply that fertilizer on Friday, the 28th of July, and then see how profitable that service was. And also, I think it's amazing how many consumer product companies are starting to work with farmers directly, are starting to build expertise, creating agronomy centers. mainly to secure supply. I know in the sugar business, when farmers have a choice and they don't grow sugar beet and your business is to process sugar beet, you better work with farmers to make sure they grow sugar beet for you, and hence they start to go into advisory services. Yeah. So that's how we see our job, to help others be efficient in giving farmers services and take costs down. I don't know if that helps, but.
Oh, that's super helpful, and I'm really looking forward to looking at the Argentina co-op program. That looks awesome. Thank you.
He's fantastic. If you have a chance, he's done a lot of reference meetings for us, and I think on ACA, what they've done, they also run S4HANA, so they run their complete operations on SAP, and they do what I said. When you actually get recommendations on that stack, and you say, I want to get that fertilizer, they actually trigger an order into the ERP system to blend a certain grade, and then they process it all along. That's exactly what we mean by the intelligent enterprise, taking big data, unstructured data, and processing it all the way through into this space. Great question.
I have a couple questions in the chat. One is from Peter Harder, who's also in the Mid-Willamette Valley. He's asking, does a lack of accuracy of broadband maps and a lack of broadband impact uptake of SAP offerings to ag?
It's another great question. So obviously this is something that will hopefully get better over time with new technology. Yeah, so I'm amazed how many customers, even in remote location, have set up local broadband. But I think one of the key requirements we have and we're working on is the ability to be offline capable. So a lot of our apps will need to be offline capable for the moment, because if you are running something and you are cut off in the field, you need to have data. If you work with an iPad, for example, yeah, you need to be able to have that data stored locally, and then when you get back online, be able to synchronize. That's probably the key requirement we see coming, and we're working on that. Very much ag specific, I think.
Awesome. It's a constant conversation here in the state of Oregon. And I've got one last question before we let you go from another person that I adore, Jeff Freeman with Marion Ag, is asking, will your cloud solution and API function require specialized personnel, adept at computer science, or usable by the average manager / executive personnel? So in other words, is it in a click connect, or does it require programming knowledge?
I was going to say, if I'm able to use it, it will break all barriers. I'm not a computer scientist, a data scientist by profession. So yeah, but jokes aside, I think it'll be probably a blend of it. So I think some of it will definitely be on the expert level, especially the setup of that logic, if you like, in the data science space. We see a huge potential if we can connect data science to what the operational people do. We see a lot of companies have invested into data science. They have the, mathematicians with top degrees from top universities do models, but then the VP of operations still does what he's always done. So our goal is to give the data science teams a platform, but then have it being almost like a USB stick, plug and play type thing, go into these data containers so that you can see different simulations with that data science. And I think that will be the journey that we want to work on. And I think if we can manage, if you think for a second, if we can say, we model a field for sugarcane, and we give you the data containers, and your data science team can either have their own logic, or they can go to the University of wherever, California, Florida, South Africa, and get their logic and play with it and see what is actually then the recommendation. I think that would be fantastic, and that's definitely the route we're taking. Is everything finished? Not, but that's definitely the vision we're trying to do here.
Well, thank you. And thanks for giving us an extra minute of your time. Everyone give Anya a virtual round of applause. And the beauty of our summit online is you're joining us from Germany, correct?
That's correct, yes.
So it is, I think, the end of your day. So thank you so much for being here. That was amazing. A nice way to kick off our conference with a global perspective. And then for you folks that are still out there, we'll be back here at 11 and actually exploring the local supply chain and some food provenance questions right here in the state of Oregon. So we really appreciate your time and thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Have a great day or a great
Bye.
night. Bye.
Thank you.